My steering wheel shakes whenever I apply the brakes, and I can hear the brake pads grinding, so I need to replace the brake discs and pads. I'm working on my Nissan, but the brake design is very similar on many cars, so watch this video to the end to see what you're in for. I've chocked the wheels, then I jack up the right side of the car, place a jack stand under the chassis, remove the wheel, and for extra safety, I put the wheel under the chassis rail. You can see where the worn out brake pads have been rubbing on the disc for the past couple of days. I remove the cap on the brake fluid reservoir. Then I loosen the top guide pin bolt on the back of the brake caliper and completely remove it so I can rotate the caliper off the brake pads. There's lots of different style brake pad clips, but this one has a wire clip that fits into a hole on the outside edge of each brake pad. Then I remove the clips. It's a good idea to take some photos so you can refer to them later. Then put the clip somewhere safe, unlike me who put it on the ground and spent the next hour looking for it only to find it stuck to the sole of my boot. Next I remove the brake pads, which slide out away from the brake disc. The friction material has completely worn off the outer brake pad, which has damaged the brake disc. But I'd planned to replace the discs and pads at the same time, so it really doesn't matter. Now I use a socket spanner to loosen the caliper mounting bolts. Once the bolts are removed, I can slide the caliper bracket off the hub. Next I'm pushing the piston back into the caliper. I'm using a special tool for this, but in the past I've also used a standard G-clamp. Now I'll remove the old disc from the hub, but it has rusted on a little bit, so I spray on some penetrating oil, then give the disc a tap with a hammer. The rust on the hub needs to be cleaned off thoroughly, otherwise the disc won't sit perfectly flat against it. And this will lead to more brake shuttering problems when the disc has excessive run out, which means it's not spinning true. First I'm using a wire brush, then a Scotch-Brite pad, and brake cleaner on a rag. But in the end I think emery paper would have worked better and quicker. The oily coating on new brake discs need to be cleaned off thoroughly. I cleaned both sides a couple of times with brake cleaner and a clean cloth. Now I can slide them onto the hub. Then I remove old brake dust from the caliper while wearing a face mask and gloves. I clean the brake pad guides with brake cleaner and a toothbrush, but soapy water works well too. Now I reinstall the caliper's mounting bracket onto the hub and tighten its bolts. I put a tiny amount of brake grease on the brake pad to bracket surface, and a dab of grease on the brake pad's edge. And slide the new pads onto the bracket with the pad's friction side towards the disc, and also making sure that no grease gets too close or on the actual disc. When the pads are in position, I install a wire clip into the pad's edge, so it's exactly the same as before I dismantled it. Refer to the photos that you took before you remove the clips. Then while holding the wire clip in place and the pads against the disc, I align the caliper so it can be rotated over the pads back into position, which is quite easy as I have already pushed the caliper's piston all the way into the caliper to allow for the new thick pads. Then I replace the upper guide bolt and tighten it to the factory torque settings. Then I replace the wheel, remove the jack stand, torque the wheel nuts, lower the car, and repeat on the other side of the car. And when that side is complete, I pump the brakes a few times, check the brake fluid level, and replace the brake reservoir cap. I need to change the brake fluid soon and bleed the brakes too, but that'll have to wait for another day when I can get someone to help. If this video helped you out, write me a comment below as I reply to all comments. please consider subscribing to my channel and check out my other videos, which are probably a lot more interesting than this one. Thanks for watching, see you next time.